Hello and welcome to Ask the Undertaker, an open, honest liquor to film service brought to you by Golden Gate Funeral Home and Crematory, with facilities in Fort Worth, Texas, Dallas, Texas, and Tallulah, Louisiana. I'm your host, John Beckwith Jr., and I'm joined today by my sister, my chief financial officer, my partner, sister Carolyn Haynes.
Good morning, everybody.
And we have the pastor, hey Lewis, Eton.
Blessings on you.
We have our sister, our pre-need, and our insurance specialist, Miss Charlotte Beckwith.
Good morning, saints.
All right, today come from Revelations, that last book, 21st chapter, the 4th verse, Dr. Eton.
The word of God says, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, nor pain, for the former things are passed away.
All right, thank you, Pastor. Today we're talking about intuitive and instrumental grief.
Yeah.
Those are two things, Carolyn, before Jackie gave me this great research.
No idea.
I've only been doing this my entire life. But today we're going to learn as we teach about intuitive and instrumental grief. Carolyn, we all have experienced a loss in our life at some point. All of us have experienced some type of grief. Quite often on this show we talk about Elizabeth's the psychologist that spoke about the 5 stages of grief. We're not taking that away. We're saying you're still going through those 5 stages, but today we're going to introduce you to 2 other types of grief, which is intuitive and instrumental. Now, Carolyn, and I say we all have been through some grief, right?
Yes.
And we got different ways that we deal with our grief, Charlotte. Sometimes we deal with it because of our culture. Our culture have a certain way of dealing with grief, outside of how other cultures deal with grief. And we kind of brag about that. We got our way, y'all got
Your way.
And then my personality. I'm not loud, I'm not boisterous, I'm not one of those, outgoing people like my sister. So my personality, I deal with grief different than others. And then my temperament, Carolyn.
Right.
We don't have the temperament of a Carolyn because we're the younger of the children. We're not as mature as a Carolyn. We haven't got that under control yet. So all 3 of those things makes the difference in my grief and the way I handle grief. But Carolyn, today we found out there was an intuitive grief and a instrumental grief. Tell us a little bit. Let's just start with the intuitive. Let's learn a little bit about what exactly is intuitive grief.
Well, John, as you're talking about these 2, they're identifying them in different ways. The intuitive grief, they're identifying as a feminine way of grieving.
So intuitive, feminine.
Right.
Now, we have to be careful with that word feminine because we're not talking about sex.
Right.
We're not talking about gender, right?
Right.
We're not saying that it's a woman thing.
Right.
That's not what we're saying.
No.
Okay. So that means if intuitive is feminine, that makes
Instrumental. Masculine.
Okay. So now we're saying intuitive, if there's a feminine way to grieve,
Yes.
and then we're saying there's a masculine way to grieve. Tell me a little bit about this feminine way of grieving.
Yeah, in that intuitive way where they're talking about the feminine, you show more emotions. There's going to be a deep sadness and pain with this particular grief, and you show that emotion outwardly.
Okay, help me out, Charlotte. Intuitive. You said that was a feminine type of grief, and you're basically saying that a feminine type of grief is showing of emotion. Is that what y'all said? It's more of a masculine, and men are masculine. We don't express as much. So if I'm having intuitive grief, you're basically saying I'm showing my emotions. I'm loud with it. I'm crying. You can see the emotions on my face if I'm having a feminine type of grief.
Yeah, and that's what it says. See, women tends to express their feelings outwardly, whereas men tends to express their feelings inwardly. And we're not saying this is a female or male thing.
Because some men can have
this type, that feminine. And that's not saying that you're like a female. That's not saying that's not taking anything away from your from your gender. It's just saying it's just different ways. It's a pattern. It's what they're basing these studies off of.
Okay, and it's interesting. We thank Jackie every week. We always say thank you for the great research because this was deep.
It was.
Now, I didn't realize that I was grieving intuitive. I didn't realize I was grieving instrumental. I thought I was just being me. I'm just glad they got a name for it.
Right.
Because not only do we now can we name it, now we can help people that's going through it.
Right.
And Carol, now not so judgmental.
That's the key.
Exactly. Now that again we know that it is a real thing. This is not something that was made up for that particular person. Understand with these studies that have been made, it is real, and that's how they're expressing their grief. So that's how they're feeling at that time.
So intuitive, I'm grieving out loud. I'm showing emotions. I'm crying. Instrumental is more masculine. I'm kind of holding it
Back.
in. I'm kind of holding. It looks like I'm holding back, but I just have a different way of grieving out.
Right.
Whereas I might not cry. I might go out and work on the garage or the car. I might go outside and paint a fence. They say, "What is he doing? Don't you know his wife just died? Why he's out there working on the car? What is he doing? Don't he know that his child just passed away? Why is he out there doing this or doing that?" That is my way of grieving, and I'm so glad they now have a name for it, because people used to judge us from it.
They sure did.
They used to say this: he must didn't care.
He's so cold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And we're actually
Or
angry
he's
at it.
holding it in, and it's gonna hurt him later.
Yeah.
No. That's a way of grieving.
Grieving.
Everybody that's crying out loud is not doing it right. Where everybody that's holding it inside is doing it wrong.
Right.
It's just two different types of. And now we have named it.
Yes.
But now that you have named it, how do you help me if I'm doing intuitive type of grief? Help me out with that, Carol. If I'm doing intuitive type of grief, how do you help me if I'm that type of griever?
Well, as the person that's there to help the intuitive griever, we're asking that you get a box of Kleenex and you sit there and you listen to them and allow them to get those feelings out and tell you how they're feeling.
So regardless if I'm a man or a woman, if I'm having a feminine type of grief or a intuitive grief, you let them grieve that way.
Yes.
You don't
Listen
tell
to
a
him.
man just because he's a male that he's not supposed to cry.
Right.
You don't tell a man just because he's a male he's not supposed to act out.
Right.
It's okay.
Okay.
Because we understand he's now having a intuitive grief. I'm going to give him a Kleenex.
Right.
And then I'm going to say to my brother, go ahead and get it
Out.
And I'm not going to tell you to stop crying. I'm not going to try to tell you a joke. I'm not going to pat you on your back. I'm just going to sit back and let you grieve intuitively.
Yes.
That's how I deal with an intuitive.
Yes.
It doesn't matter about their sex.
Right.
It's a feminine type of grief.
Right.
Now, how do I handle instrumental griever then? If I'm the person that don't scream out loud, if I'm the person that don't cry out loud, how do you handle me?
Well, sometimes you can handle it by joking.
Okay, so if I'm a person that don't hold it in, you're saying I don't try to make you cry.
Right.
You saying don't show up and make me cry if I'm not crying.
Right.
But
And try to
I
make me
know my
sad.
brother died. I know my mama died. You don't have to remind me of that.
Right.
Just because I'm not crying doesn't mean I'm not thinking about it.
Right.
I got my own different way. You said you can go. You know,
Walk in.
I know people process. Ain't no way in the world she over here talking about making a joke and somebody just died. Now Undertakers do that all the time when we dealing with each other with grief, because we wasn't naming it before. We didn't know what we was doing.
Right.
But we would walk in and make a joke out of it. You know, you'll walk into a situation, we're not making a joke off the idea your loved one is passed, but we might start telling you funny stories about the loved one. You might walk in and be one of those, remember that time? And then we all end up laughing. Well, that's a type of grief, Carol.
Yeah, that's the how you handle someone going through instrumental grief.
Okay.
You help them, and another way too with that is to give them some structure.
Okay.
Like you said that you're going to go out and you're going to work on the garage. Well, they need something to do, possibly, especially with their hands. I need to be able to work this grief out, and that's how they do it
So
instrumental.
I got two people in my family. Mom had 5, and we're all different. So I got somebody that's doing intuitive grief. I'm going to let them cry. I'm not going to tell them, stop all that crying. Stop acting all loud. I'm going to let them cry. Then I got this other guy over here, this other girl over here that's been a little, what we would call hard. They're not crying. And I'm going to say to them, listen, let me give you something to do. Maybe you need to be the one that goes set up the catering for the repast. Maybe you're going to be the one that's going to write out the program. Maybe you're the one that needs to go get mama's clothes together or dad's suit together. Because
Give
the
'em
type of
something to
grief
do.
that you're doing, I need to give you some type of structure. And since you're going to go do something, Let me give you something to go in. Oh, now wait a minute, Jackie. How you have this great research? Can we trust Jackie on all this great research? I love it. I love it because she said, listen, she didn't make this up.
Right.
She gave us some names. She said, Google his name, Dr. Terry Morton and Dr. Kenneth Doka. Yeah. She said, just Google them. That's who came up with intuitive grief. That's who came up with instrumental grief. They said, listen, we are now saying that we can name what you've been feeling.
Right.
And I'm so glad. I needed this. I'll tell you how bad I need this. I thought people that wasn't crying at funerals was just glad they was gone. I'm just saying, I'm very judgmental. I'd be like, they ain't crying. Some folks should be glad the great guy. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. I've said it. And I've said this, y'all just being prejudiced. People that's falling all in the caskets, they must be guilty. They didn't do right. I know I'm not the only one, y'all. They're gonna say it now. That's the one. Them right there.
Yeah. No, she didn't do
But
right.
that wasn't right. I was dead wrong. One of them was just having intuitive grief, and the other one had a instrumental grief. I couldn't understand how a preacher could get up and preach their loved one's funeral. I couldn't. I just understand. I was like, man, how could he write that sermon, or how could she get her points together? How could they get up there and speak without falling down or out? Instrumental grief. And this is what I like. This is what both of these doctors said. They said, listen, you could be doing both. In one moment, you could be intuitive grieving. And the next moment, you could switch to instrumental grieving. They had a name for that. Carol, what do they call that?
They call it blended.
You can have a blended grief. You mean I could be at home one moment screaming, hollering, and at the next moment get up and preach the funeral?
Yes.
Or get up and do remarks. Or get up there and say, I'm going to go make those arrangements in the morning, and I'm going to take care of. That's called a blended grief. Isn't that something else?
Yes.
And I'm loving it because she got it right here in our... Didn't know it, Pastor.
Didn't know it.
I've never even heard of this story before.
Well, I just had a story when it come down to us as Undertakers. When it came down to Michael,
Our brother Michael.
It was unexpected, and we did an instrumental grief because the only thing we talk about is when Michael used to always joke, and it helped us to accept the fact that we just lost a loved one, and that's the way that we handled it. And then when you talk about the instrumental, I said that's exactly what we did, not knowing. So I think this is some great research. That
Because she named it. Now you said we did the instrumental grief. Michael was found deceased. Shocked us. Had a heart attack. Worked one day. Dead the next day. Bishop Jeffrey Thomas called me on my way to office. Say, hey, I think your brother's deceased. I'm turning the limousine back around, trying to get back to his apartment. We get to his apartment and found him dead. So we're all just shocked. We go from there, Carolyn, to where?
Straight to the
funeral home.
And make funeral arrangements. Says his date, says his times, picks his casket. I go buy his suit. All kinds of things. No question we were in instrumental. But when I got to his funeral, you guys, you could have picked me up off the floor. Because I was dealing with intuitive grief at that point. That was really sad for me. And I was able to outwardly grieve. Blended grief. Blended grief. And I thought that was really amazing.
Yeah, and I remember that too. So I'm so glad that we're talking about this today because, again, as a undertaker or a funeral director, I have heard families to actually be angry at other family members because of the way they saw them handling it. And well, what's wrong with her? She must don't care about mama. She ain't did nothing. She ain't, And so now that we're describing you, it's just that person and how they're handling it. And we should just take a...
because we didn't write this.
Yeah.
This was written. Common qualities intuitive grief is extreme sadness and pain. It's just a grief process, girl. It's not the idea how I felt. I'm not guilty. I didn't do anything wrong. I just have extreme sadness and pain. It says an outward experience of that. Meaning I am crying out loud. I'm letting you know exactly how I am feeling. It's called emotional expression. That's called intuitive grief. Wrote it before it ever happened. Isn't that something, y'all? Now we can put a name to what we're dealing with. And it's interesting, Carolyn, we have to be really careful in instrumental grieving. Because what we'll do is we'll mentally separate from the loss. We'll go do something so we don't have to deal with it. We don't want to be feminine grieving. So we'll go do something so we don't show that emotion. Isn't that something? I'm going to do that because I don't want to cry out loud. I'm going to separate mentally from that it's already written. It's an outward experience is what they talk about, a lack of emotion. Because that's just my particular style of grief. That's what I choose to do. Isn't that interesting, Pastor?
It
There's a name to it.
It is, because my family was telling me, why are you acting like the preacher now? Mama just passed. I said, I know my mother passed. I said, but I got to put my mind somewhere else. I can't get up here hollering and screaming and acting like everyone else.
Instrumental.
But didn't know a name for it, so everybody was judging me, and I was judging them. So, but I'm so glad Miss Jackie gave us a name.
Instrumental grief, they say you do more thinking than you do feeling.
Right.
That's how they summed it up. Instrumental grieving, the masculine grieving is more thinking than you are feeling. Less expressions and less emotions. And then I'm going to go into this thought process. I need to do this. I need to do that. Don't you know now that I'm the man of the family? Don't you know now that I got to step up? Don't you know now I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to logically figure this out and we got to have enough seats for everybody and how many programs we're going to have and if I don't get this under control, who's going to get it under control? If I don't plan it, who's going to? That's your way of grieving, Carolyn. Instrumental grief.
Instrumental grief. You just go into that mode. I've got to get this done. And most of the time, I think with instrumental grief, you don't want anybody around you to even help you.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to do this. This is the last thing I can do for my loved one. So let me put these things in order.
And what we're saying to the other family members, don't be mad.
Right.
You think they're trying to take over. They're grieving.
Right.
Yeah.
You think they're trying to run everything. They're instrumentally grieving. They're not trying to run anything. They need to run something. Let them run it.
Right.
That's your way of allowing them to grieve. And how many people done got into an argument with a family not knowing why they was acting the way they were
Right,
acting?
exactly.
Because I didn't know any better before today. And I've been doing this all my life. I've been around grieving folks and grieving myself all my life. And never could I thought it had something to do with the way you was raised. I thought it had something to do with the way you treated the person who died. Child, I was just dead wrong.
You was dead wrong. But so again, that's why I said this is a great research that we're talking about. And I do hope that we're helping somebody out there so they can get a better understanding of the grief process.
5 stages of grief. We're not saying that's not still happening.
No.
Right.
Even in your intuitive grief, you're still in denial. Even in your intuitive grief, you're still angry.
Right.
Even in your intuitive grief, I'm still going through depression. I'm still bargaining. I'm still trying to get to acceptance. Even in instrumental grief. Those still grief process is still going on. When these 2 psychologists came back and they wrote this, they didn't say anything bad about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who wrote the 5 stages. They didn't say that did or did not exist. They're saying this is a combination. More we know, Carolyn, the better we're going to be.
Yes,
Bottom line, Dr. Martin, Dr. Doka, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. They didn't write this till 1979. Thank you, Jackie, for finding it in 2019.
Right.
Because somebody should have taught me this in Montreal College in 1985. It should have came up in some of that continuing education I've been taking because I've been licensed for over 30 years. Somebody should have told us. But thank you for asking the Undertaker. I think we're the Mortuary College now. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that for. I'm gonna say we're the one who invented.
Miss Marisa, you invented.
We invented pre-need, right? we invented pre-need because I just love it, y'all. When we talk about the 7 things that we do here, we talk about trying to make it as easy as possible for the families that are grieving. And we're basically saying to you, if you're not an instrumental griever, and you know your family's not instrumental grievers, you need to put those things in place. Because they're not going to have it in order. If you know your next of kin and your family is intuitive grievers, and you know they're going to be all over the place, you definitely need to get these 7 things. And you know, like certain family members are intuitive and other family members are instrumental. You know, certain ones you shouldn't make the right of disposition. Because you too intuitive. I need somebody that's instrumental who's going to handle the business part. So when I get ready to decide who's going to be the executive of the state, it's not that I love you more than I love you. I just know y'all grieve differently and you act different. You take care of business a little. And I'm not saying one person going to be over everything. Because I might need an intuitive person to kind of help me do my pre-need. I do need somebody that's going to talk about some type of feelings about what's going to happen here. But I may need an instrumental person when it comes to the right of disposition. Because I need you to go straight off what I wrote. I don't want you to deviate. I want you to tears. I don't want the tears to blur the lines. I need you to read exactly what's on the line. Now, at this time, y'all, we're going to pray. We're going to pray for the families who have entrusted their loved ones to Golden Gate Funeral Home, and we're going to recognize those who have passed on to their reward. Miss Hanks?
Mr. Lee Levels Sr., Miss Cora Ewing, Mr. Adrian Leno, Mr. Lewis Edinburgh Sr., Mr. Liddell Lewis, Mr. William Davis, Miss Thelma Dinwiddie, Miss Cecilia Allensworth, Mr. Willie Wagner, Mr. Augustine Aldapy, Sergeant Major Christopher Trammell, Miss Armina Pennington, Mr. Charles Bradley, Miss Annie Brinkley, Miss Erlene Presley, Miss Nakia Garrett, Mr. Lorenza Latiker, Miss Ermina McIntosh, Mr. Lawrence Weems, Miss Bircher Brown, Mr. James Garrett, Miss Regina Sally, Mr. Randall Lynn, Miss Judy Askew, Mr. David Lowe, Miss Dorothy McCullough, Mr. Billy Dean, Miss Carol Langdon, Mr. James Hartman, Miss Kamisha Moore, Mr. Darren Caraway, Mr. David Wilson, Miss Mildred Wesley, Mr. Ripley Scott, Miss Lola Wrigley, Mr. Matthew Pullins, Mr. Frankie Hicks, Mr. Bobby Spencer, Mr. Demondre Green, Miss Mildred Miller, Mr. Maurice Carter, Mr. Odell Smith Jr., Mr. Danny Jeffrey, Miss Teresa Okafor, Mr. Charles Jones Jr., Mr. Jack Jackson, Mr. Bryant McBride, Miss Pamela Thompson, Miss Carolyn Thompson, Mr. Reginald Allen, Mr. Hursley Scott, Mr. Joe Price, Miss Olivia Salinas, Miss Martha Mays, Mr. John Rawls, Miss Dorothy Wright, Mr. Louis Charlie, Miss Michelle Whitehead, Miss Stella Lewis, Miss Velma Henderson, Miss Princess Nolan, Miss Patricia Foreman, Miss Joanne Andrews, Miss Gloria Scott, Miss Maria Reyes, Mr. Daniel Corona, Miss Larissa Coleman, Miss Joyce Ennis, Mr. Joe Barron, Mr. Derek Washington, Mr. Johnny Sims, Miss Candace Brown Moore, Mr. Elma Wallace, Miss Grace Lester, Miss May Johnson, Mr. Andrew Davis, Mr. Kevin Gonder, Mr. Robin Searle, Mr. James Ellis Jr., Mr. Bennett Baker, Mr. George Robinson, Miss Pamela Bailey, Infant Skylar Johnson, Mr. Theodore Harris, Miss Edith Holt, Mr. Charles Alexander, and Mr. L.P. Faulkner. Reverend?
Our Father and our God, we come with bowed heads and humble hearts. Father, thanking thee for blessing these families whose families members have transitioned to the other side. Father, we ask now that we encourage them and keep lifting them up to you, letting them know that earth has no sorrows that heaven cannot heal. Father, we thank you for the lives of these family members, and Lord, we thank you that we're able now to understand why family members are going through certain ways, some intuitive, some instrumental. But Father, we thank you that we're able to come together as one. Now, Lord, thank you for our founding owner, the one who came all the way from Louisiana and organized the Golden Gate Funeral Home. Father, we want to say thank you. And then, Lord, thank you for the legacy he has passed down to his children, that they even have an educational program to help us to prepare for our transition time. Now, Master, keep us now in your keeping care. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Revelations is the 21st chapter, 4th verse, Dr. Eaton.
And the word of God says, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. And there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away.
All right, today we're talking about intuitive and instrumental grief. Two different things, Charlotte, as we deal with that, and two different things. Carolyn, we saying that in Dr. Martin and Dr. Doka, and I said 1979, was actually went into 1996 when this actually came out. That they felt like instrumental grieving was a masculine type grieving. And when we understand with masculine type grieving, that we kind of hold things on the inside, that we have to be strong and we have to be the ones who put things in order and we keep everybody else in order. And I'm just glad to know that there is a name for that. And then we talked about the intuitive grieving. Carolyn, we talked about that feminine type of grieving. I get to express my emotions. What I really liked about it, it didn't matter my sex. It didn't matter if I was male or female. I could be in either one. And Charlotte, help us again with exactly how do we deal with someone that has a feminine or an intuitive type grieving? How do we help that person through their grief process?
Well, the best thing right now is just to listen to them. Just have a listening ear. Just, unless they ask you, just sit there quietly with them and listen with them.
Listen to them. They said, let them do what they do. Carolyn said, let them cry.
Right.
Get a box of tissue, just kind of be there. You know how hard that is for a man to watch another man? To be there for another. But now you know better, that your friend is not just being weak. They're actually grieving. If you're a real friend, now that you know better, hopefully you'll be a better friend. And you won't treat an intuitive griever the way you would treat a instrumental grieving, right? So if he's going through a intuitive grieving, even as a man, I would hope you will have enough knowledge
now that you know,
apply and don't try to make a joke. Don't. This ain't the time to send them to the store to go get a break. No, this is the time to allow them to do what they do. And what if I'm instrumental grieving?
Well, then you need to give them something to do, because they need some structure. They need to be able to work with their hands and take away so much of the feelings and start thinking about what I need to do to get ready for my loved one's passing.
Instrumental grieving is different than intuitive grieving. And I just thought it was interesting when they wrote this, they said that, listen, a feminine type grieving, a intuitive type grieving, the bottom line is that women was just traditionally passive. They were just traditionally emotional, traditionally expressive. They felt more than they thought. We're different, y'all. The bottom line is that we are different. You can see how they came up with calling it a feminine type of grieving. But then they learned later on is that men can feel the same. They say, find your feminine side. You ever heard that before, girl? Doesn't make me less of a man, because there's so many different ways that I respond in grief. See, my religion teaches me one thing. And my religion might be different from your religion. My religion will say, listen, we don't grieve as those that have no hope. That's just what my religion say. You might get mad at my pastor because you don't believe in what we believe in. And we say, listen, we don't act like that because we know we're going to see him again. That's my religious belief. So why are you acting like that? Well, I'm acting like that because, come on, y'all. Intuitive grief. Now you know. It has nothing to do with being a Christian. I just need to get that. I still got hope. I know I'm going to see him, but I need to cry right now. Right now, Ray, come on. Don't you tell me not to cry at this film. I need to get it out. I'm in an intuitive
mode. I got to do it.
Go ahead, Pastor. Say what's on. He said, I'm guilty.
Years ago, I was in Wichita Falls working at this funeral home, and I was crying because some little kids lost their mother.
Oh, you ain't gonna do that no more.
And this guy came in and got me and carried me back in the back. He said, if I ever see you cry, Doc, I didn't even cry at my mom's funeral. Because I remember what he said.
Well, we didn't play that. We didn't play that.
We didn't play that.
We didn't know nothing about no intuitive.
No, sure did.
Like, you just chose the wrong profession. You can't help nobody if you cry.
You cried. That's right.
I like to see a sick doctor in a room. Doc, maybe you need to go see a doctor. I don't want no lawyer showing up that's in trouble. Pam, I need you to get me out of trouble. A crying Undertaker ain't no good. I need you to be instrumental.
Right now.
Man, boy.
But yeah, I used to be that Undertaker. I used to, the lady works for me now. I've been there over 30 years. She cried
Every funeral.
She's still there. We ain't fired her yet. But your religion will sometimes make you move toward one of those others, and we just didn't know any better.
Didn't know
And then our
better.
culture.
Yeah.
As African Americans, we express ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not unusual. We'll say them other folks had them 5-minute funerals.
Mhm.
Ain't nobody crying. I guess they just had more insurance than we did. I don't know why they not crying. Why y'all not? You know that was y'all mama. Y'all really gonna have a funeral tomorrow? She just died yesterday.
Yeah.
Y'all ain't had time tomorrow. Y'all gonna marry her when? What is it? And then they used to come over with stuff. They used to say, "We know they're gonna turn dark."
Yeah.
No, they not.
That was
I like
the
black
saying.
people. You know, they had to marry them folks immediately. And then, you know, us, we wait 2 or 3 weeks. But it doesn't matter. And you know, black folks come in all colors.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you know, if we can embalm a light-skinned black man, surely we can embalm a white person last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And we just thought they wasn't grieving properly. They just had a different type of. Their culture said that you need to be instrumentally grieving. We're gonna come here with like we got some business on our mind, and it wasn't nothing wrong with what they were doing, Carol. We was judging them all wrong.
Nothing wrong with it. We all grieve
Black History
differently.
Month. Is it
And
okay?
now,
Okay. Right.
we now understand why they were grieving the way they were. And you're exactly right. It could have been their culture. Could have been their
culture do
religion,
that. Yeah.
their temperament, whatever was going on with them. And another thing I think we need to add to that is your relationship with the person.
Mhm.
I think will determine whether you're
Sometimes.
intuitive or whether you're instrumental.
Because even in the same family, you'll have different people
Right.
acting differently.
Right.
Right.
Remember, I can do both. I can
Mhm.
blend my intuitive with
Mhm.
my instrumental. I can be sad and taking care of
Mhm.
business. I love it. I just like the idea
That is
that it
something.
actually had a name on this thing. So now when I tell people to get a pre-need, I'm saying, listen, get a pre-need because you're going to have some folks in your family that are intuitive
Intuitive.
grievers, and you're going to have some instrumental grievers, and you know your family better than I do, and you know if they're not instrumental grievers, they're not going to take care of business very well,
Mm-hmm.
are they?
Not
They're
at
just
all.
not going to,
No,
Carolyn.
they're not going to
And
be
it-
able to.
Right, exactly, because they're intuitive grievers. So you have to
Mhm.
make sure that you give that person some exact instruction what to do when you die.
Most definitely. This is my pre-need. This is my guide. This is what I want because you do know your family.
Mhm.
And they're not going to be able to. We say all the time, they are literally out of their mind when they get the news that you've passed away, if they're there when you pass away.
Mhm.
Help them
Mhm.
help you.
Mm-hmm.
Help me. Help me. Help me because you know
Yes.
I am intuitive. You know how sensitive I am.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if I'm a man or a woman. You know I'm a big crybaby.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make me have to go in that funeral home and make
those
arrangements.
decisions.
Don't do that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And be careful. If I'm instrumentally grieving, I'm going to overthink this thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to overthink this thing. And listen, we need to celebrate your life. And if I'm overthinking, I might say, don't do a direct cremation.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I'm overthinking this thing. I'm overthinking this thing. I'm saying, no, we ain't gonna spend all that money. We ain't gonna put all that money in the grave.
No.
Because I'll overthink it.
Mhm.
And you guys remember, I'm doing it with grief. You
Right.
gotta be careful. Don't leave it up to them either. Do it yourself.
Self.
You should never make funeral arrangements while grieving.
Mhm.
And most people that make funeral arrangements, 90% make it while
While
grieving.
grieving.
You shouldn't
Yes.
make any decisions while grieving.
Right.
All those things should be made before grief get there.
Mm-hmm.
We're preparing for funerals, but we're also preparing for grief.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking at
I'm
him.
teaching
and-
her.
Well, the maze part is that I dealt with a family this week, and because some things wasn't in order, and she was grieving, she was just at a pause. She did not know what to do with herself
Right, that's when we
because
come in
this
as
was
funeral directors.
not prepared
Right.
ahead of time.
And that's where we come in this funeral.
Right.
That's the reason
Got
we go
it.
to mortuary college. That's the reason they give us a license. That's the reason they hold us accountable
Mhm.
to make sure that we are able to take care of people and not take advantage of.
Right.
At that time. What we're saying as Undertakers, as Ask the Undertaker show, with Golden Gate Funeral Home is saying do it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even put your family in a position that
that.
somebody might take advantage of. Because you've already made that decision in your right mind. You've already decided how much they're going to spend. You hopefully already paid for it. So they're not making any decisions, so nobody coming out and take advantage of it.
Right.
It's interesting, the federal government got involved in that. They got really concerned. They said, listen, so many grieving families that they came out with a funeral rule. A lot of people have even heard of this before. Federal Trade Commission said, listen, we need a funeral rule. You can Google that right now. Federal Trade Commission United States government funeral rule.
Right.
And they have rules for the funeral director that you must treat grieving families a certain way.
Right.
Yes.
To make sure, y'all check this out, that you don't take advantage of them.
That's right.
They said a grieving family, give them a price list
Right.
before you discuss prices.
That's
Right.
Let
Right.
them read it for them.
Sales.
Yeah, they had to come up with a funeral rule.
Rule.
Then they said anything you sell them, itemize it out.
Yeah.
They said itemize it out. If you want to charge for funeral director staff, that line needs to say funeral director. Don't walk in there and just tell them, oh, the funeral, $5,000 and walk out.
Right.
They said now that
Gotta
is against the
show them
rules.
Rules.
They even have a federal government rule about don't take advantage of grieving families.
Right.
It's called the
Funeral
funeral
rule.
rule. Google it. You can Google it. You're
Google
probably
it.
watching me on Facebook right now. You're looking at me on Facebook. You may be listening to me on the radio. Google funeral rule. It is a federal government rule on how we should treat you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said every funeral director in this nation must follow this rule.
Yes,
And
that's right.
it's a lot of rules too. It's a lot to
Mhm.
it. And that's interesting. You know what they were concerned about? Grieving people.
Yes.
They're saying people will take advantage of
Grieving.
and that's why we say don't make arrangements
While
while you're
grieving.
grieving. Don't do that to your family. Make arrangements in your right mind so you don't ever have to worry about your family being taken advantage of. Pre-need. And there's no other reason pre-need. Hell, I just gave you a reason to pre-need.
Right.
Absolutely. So I hope everyone and our listening audience can get an idea of why you should pre-need.
That's right. No decisions while I'm not going to do that to my
Family.
family. And then second of all, leave some money. Yeah, we say, listen, it is a lot easier when what?
When we can still pay for stuff.
I'm just telling you, it's just a lot easier.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you from the experience of the thousands of people I handle every year. When people walk in there with money, it's a different type of
Different
grief.
type. Yes.
I'm just telling you, when you can walk into a funeral home and get anything you want, I'm not saying they overspend. They just have choices.
Right.
It is nice to walk in and say, you got 32 flavors? And I can look at all the flavors. You know how terrible it is to walk in there and say, you got 32 flavors? I can afford the vanilla because that's the only thing that's on sale today.
Right.
You guys, that's terrible for your family.
Yes.
Don't put your I want to give them the horse and carriage, but I can't afford it.
Right.
I want to bury them at this cemetery, but we can't go. I want to have a funeral on Saturday, but since Saturdays cost extra at the cemetery, we got to have a funeral on Thursday. I want to bury them, but I got to cremate them because they don't have any insurance. Don't put your family in that position. People with the money available, Carolyn, grieve differently.
They do grieve differently. They come in, they have a whole different outlook about how this service will be performed. But you put these things in place. You know exactly what you want to spend on your funeral. You don't want them to come in there and overspend. So you do a pre-need, you have everything in place. Whether you decide to fund it with an insurance company,
Right.
or you're going to use a separate insurance policy, you still put it in writing and your family knows exactly what to do and how you want it.
Let me hang on this insurance for a second. Don't fool me now. Don't fool me. Don't fool me. Don't you tell me you got insurance, you ain't got it.
Right.
Right.
Don't you give me a policy you know you don't stop paying on.
Right.
And then you die and I walk in here instrumentally grieving. I'm making decisions. Yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to have this. We're going to do it this day. And then the Undertaker walk back in. But no, we checked the policy. It's lapsed. They took a loan on it. And they
yes.
owe on it.
Yes.
They just stopped paying on it.
Yes.
This insurance is no. Don't you do that to your family. Don't you lie to them. Don't you tell them you got something you don't have.
Right.
Just tell me.
The truth.
Just tell me the truth because maybe I can get something on you.
Yeah.
No, we do insurance on sick folks.
Yeah.
We do insurance on elderly people. Y'all don't lie to your family. Don't let them walk in there with instrumental grief, thinking they can make some decisions. Then they end up screaming, hollering,
Right.
crying. They don't jump right to intuitive grief.
Right.
You don't put them in that grief.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
You did that.
you
You didn't
didn't
let 'em
tell
know.
them the truth. Tell your families the truth
Yes.
when it comes to that
Insurance,
insurance.
yes.
And if you don't have it, just say I don't
Yeah.
have it so we can get you some. All right, Carol. Now, if you're done with that, we need a last will and testament. Why do I need a last will and testament?
You have to give your family instructions about things that you own and people that you take care of. You know your own business, but someone has to take care of it when you're no longer here.
Okay.
That's a legal document that they're going to need in court, so that just in case there's someone in your family that, no, mama told me I could have this, daddy said this was mine, it's in writing, and your family does not have to separate and no longer be a family.
So we got two types of two reasons to have this last will and testament. First of all, if I own anything
Right.
or if I owe anything.
Right.
So that's one reason to have a just for my assets or my liabilities. If I owe anybody, I need a last will and testament, tell you who to pay and how to pay them.
Right.
If I own something, I need to tell you who should get it.
Right.
So that gives me a reason to have a last will and testament. Let me give you the second reason. What I'm going to do with your people.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm doing with your kids.
Yes.
What I'm doing with your elderly daddy, your sick mama.
Mm-hmm.
You need to put that in writing, and you need to make that legal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know you got a child in college, they're above the age of 18, but you still taking care of them. Tell me exactly what I should and shouldn't do for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know you got an elderly father that you got 24-hour care. Tell me exactly what to do with him
Mm-hmm.
and make it legal.
Right.
So the family's not arguing back and forth on what your wishes were. Put that in your last will and testament. Go back to insurance. If you're going to give me some instructions, give me some money to do it with.
Right.
Most definitely. Make me the beneficiary of a policy so that your instructions can be carried out the way you want them.
And then, if you got any money in the bank, do me a big favor and do what?
Put a payable on death on every account.
And some people might call it a beneficiary.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to they say, hey, I listen to Undertaker said a payable on death. They say, well, I never heard that. Hey, can I have a beneficiary?
Right.
Because when somebody died, I need them to get my money.
Right.
That's the bottom line. Tell that bank that. Tell that credit union that. When I pass away, get my money out of here.
Right.
Without it going to probate court, Carolyn. Before last will and testament is read, walking up with a death certificate and get your money out of that
bank.
Get your money out that bank. You know, it's interesting. Everybody don't pass away before their business need to be taken care of. Now, this is interesting. Some people say, what do you mean? Some people just get sick.
Right.
Some of us just have a stroke or a heart attack or we're in car accidents. And, Carolyn, we can't speak for ourselves. What do we need in place for those people?
You need to have a living will. You need to tell your family exactly what you want done where you no longer can speak for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This document needs to be notarized, needs to inform your family of hospital stays, life-sustaining medicine, whether or not you want to pass away in a hospital. Everything you want done for you medically that you can't say yourself needs to be in this living will.
So the living will is going to speak when I can't speak.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Now, how many people want to pass away in a hospital? They said 9 out of 10 people don't.
Don't.
They want to go home under hospital, so they want to go home. Most people want to pass away at home.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy because we didn't even know that. How many people don't want to be on a life support machine? 9 out of 10 people don't want to be on one. We didn't know that because we keep everybody on it. We think, maybe it's going to be a miracle and you're going to get off of it. Even though 2 doctors have told us you're not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got some medicine? Or you got some new stuff? Try it. But let me make that decision, not you. I'm telling you, don't you put me on no medicine. 2 doctors come together and both they say, John ain't coming back, let me go.
Yeah.
I got another home. Just let me go. But that's my decision to make, not my children, not my wife.
Right.
Don't put them in that position. We got a question on Facebook. It says, will a pre-need pay for your funeral? We have 2 types of pre-needs. This is very important. You can, when you take out a pre-need, pay for your funeral. So when something happens that your funeral part is completely paid for, you can pay it out in one term. You can just write us a check and it's paid for. Or you can pay it out over a period of time. You can do 3 years, 5 years, even up to 10 years and do it over a period of time. So when you pass away, your families don't have to pay one dime towards your funeral. Then it's the second type of pre-need, where you come in and you just pick out everything and you let your family pay for it at that time. Some people say, listen, I got enough insurance, I don't have to pay for a pre-need. But still pick out what you want so that your families do not have to. That is an excellent Facebook question, because a lot of people won't do a pre-need because they think they can't afford a pre-need. Remember, there's a free pre-need and then there is a paid pre-need, but everybody need a pre-need. Now, we can stay here all day. Let's talk about their right of disposition. Now, you're talking about intuitive grief today and instrumental grief.
Yes.
Who's going to be in charge? Now, Mom, you hear me talk about, I'm the person I can talk about dysfunctional families' minds. My mama had 5 kids. Carolyn is the oldest. I am the youngest of the 5. We're all totally different. I don't know. I know in the world we grew up in the same house. Nowhere in the world we all went to the same schools and had the same parents. And I don't know why we all came out so different. I wonder if there's any other families out there like that.
Yes.
We are totally different. And we all work together. I mean, we all work at the exact, it's still totally different. You got to know which one needs to be in charge. Everybody can't be in charge. You got to pick one. Pick one. Pick one over the Hey,
But tell
this
them.
one's gonna do the last testament.
Right.
This one's gonna do this one. This one's gonna do
Right.
but you got to make a choice, Carolyn. Who should be in charge of your funeral?
That has to be the person that at that point is instrumentally grieving and they can take care of business. You know there's some things that has to be done for your funeral and after your funeral. That's the person that needs to be in charge.
So I'm gonna do a right of disposition, which is free. I'm gonna come to go to your funeral home. We're gonna hand you a sheet of paper. It's gonna be called a right of disposition. You're gonna put who you want in charge of your funeral. Check this out. If you left her but ain't divorced her, she's still your next of kin. If you left him and didn't divorce him, he is still your next of kin. If you don't come fill out this free piece of paper, they can do anything they want with your body. I know y'all been divorced. I mean, y'all been separated for 20 years. I know you done got you a whole new family. That person is still in charge of your funeral.
That's right.
Until you come fill out one of these.
Right of disposition.
Right of dispositions are free. I don't know how much divorces cost. I'm just telling you, this is free. And guess how many times you can change it?
As many as you need to.
Listen, I might have an argument with Jackie tomorrow, and the next day go change my right of disposition. And then come back the next day and say, oh, we done made up and put it back on. It won't cost a dime.
Right.
You ought to have like 100 right of disposition sitting around.
Right.
You in charge? The day you're not in charge.
Do what you need to take care of
I'm
you.
just telling you, it is free. You can have a whole, as time change,
You
you
change.
change. I mean, free?
Free.
And somebody needs to be in.
Charge.
Okay, so if that's not your issue, y'all might not be as dysfunctional as I am. So let's talk about 5 kids, Carol. I told you mama had 5 kids. Now, it was okay when mom passed away because there was dad. And dad was her,
Next of kin.
and we could not rank him. He could have done anything he wanted to. But
Right.
now, check this out. Dad is not married. Dad never remarried. Mom been deceased for 18 years. He's never remarried. Guess how many next of kin he got?
5. 4 now.
Ooh.
Michael passed.
That's a bunch of us, y'all.
Yeah.
4 people gonna decide what happened to dad, and we're all Undertakers,
Yeah.
and we're all. That's a funeral you don't even want to come to. Don't tell you what's gonna happen at that funeral. Well, we just know Junior gonna be in charge, right? Because he's the CEO of the company. He gonna be in charge. I'm the youngest of the 5.
Right.
You know how long they've been telling me what to do? You think they gonna try to tell me what to do that day? Carolyn, you got to have a right of disposition. That's just my dysfunction. Go ahead.
You must have a right of disposition. You know your family. John's describing the Beckwith family, but you know your family
That's right.
as well. You know what's going to happen. You've seen it happen. Put these things in place. You want your funeral to be decent and in order.
Because somebody gonna say cremated. And I'm gonna say buried by mama. And somebody else said he didn't want to be buried over there. And then, y'all, it's just too much mess.
Yeah.
Put one person in charge, pay for that stuff yourself, and then nobody has to make a. Wouldn't it be terrible if Dad passed away and me and Carolyn fell out?
Oh, Lord.
All over that.
Right.
Now we've been working together all these years. All of a sudden, Dad died. We disagree,
Right.
and we never speak to each other again. How many people listening and watching on Facebook have done that?
Yes.
One person died, and you never even speaking to your siblings again. One person died, your cousin, your aunt, and never speaks again. One person died, and y'all can never come back to another family reunion
Yeah.
because that person passed away. That person should have had everything
You know.
in place, and who we should be mad at, if you're gonna be mad at somebody, is the dead person. They made that decision, not me. You can't be mad at me if that's what he said. You can't be mad at me if that's what she said. I'm just following their wishes. So one thing we're saying on this show is get some wishes.
Yeah.
At least give us something to fight with. Just get some wishes. Now listen, I know some of you saying, listen, I don't have this last will and testament, or I do have it, but every time I want to make a change, it costs me. Because it has to be re-notarized and re-witnessed. And hopefully you can afford an attorney to do it.
Yeah.
But there are certain things don't have to be in the last will and testament. Everything is not a legal situation.
Right.
Some things are just wishes.
Right.
Carolyn, we call that a letter of last instruction.
Give your family, as Marlona likes to say, a guide as to what's going on. You're not putting your passwords in that last will and testament.
Because password changed too much.
Right. You need to give them instructions about where the bank is. They need to go to the bank before that will.
And banks change, don't
Yes,
they? So I'm not
yes.
going to change my last will and testament every time I change my
Every
bank.
time I
right?
change my bank.
Okay.
But with this letter of instruction, it is no charge, and you do change it as your life situations change. But you give them a list of everything that you have, you own, where it's located, who's going to take care of my children, the daycare, everything about your life needs to be in your letter of instruction that doesn't have to be in your last will and testament.
And certain things just don't have to be in my last will and testament. What I'm wearing doesn't need to be in my last will and testament. Where to have my funeral shouldn't be in my
last will.
Listen, I went to church last week. I got mad. I ain't going back. That shouldn't be in my last will and testament.
No.
But I can put it in my letter of
Instruction.
whatever you do, don't let that preacher preach my funeral. Don't change the last will and testament for that. Just put it in your, oh man, I heard this guy and he was unbelievable and we don't reconcile. Go back and straighten that out too. Keep in mind the person that's probably going to be in charge of your funeral is not the person you talk to 24/7.
Right.
And they just don't know everything that's going on with you. But if they read that letter of instruction, they'll say, oh yeah, okay, that's what's going on. Oh, that's what he wanted. Now this is what she wanted, and this is where it is. And it's interesting, y'all. A lot of people will argue with you. You know what they'll say? She didn't say that.
Right.
He didn't say that. You doing that for you. That's your church. That's the reason you want her funeral there.
Right.
That's your church. That's why you want to go there. No, let me show you what she wrote. Let me show you what he wrote. And Carolyn, that cuts out 90% of most arguments.
Most definitely. It stops right there. This is the wishes of the loved one. And with our mom, and I'm sure with your mom, when they walk in the room and speak, there is a hush over the whole room, and they do exactly what you what you say. So we're asking you to do the letter of instruction. We're also now asking you to even video it. But if you do write it, we ask you to put it also in the email form so that anywhere in the world it can be retrieved just in case there is a hazard.
So who are we talking to? We're talking to matriarchs. We're saying is that you're in charge of your entire family. We're talking to you, Mama. Big Mama. Yeah, you know when you speak, everybody listen. We know that everybody's dependent on you. So if you paying kids' bills, leave enough insurance to keep paying kids' bills and make the right person beneficiary. Now, you know it's a reason why they don't pay their bills, because they're not good at money.
Right.
Don't leave them beneficiary.
Right.
Leave somebody beneficiary and leave them some instructions on keep paying that other person's bills.
Right.
Oh, y'all didn't get that, did you?
Right.
Okay. Now, if you're the patriarch of the family, if you're the one who take care of everybody, you make all the decisions, please understand they need to hear from you at death. They are going to fall out. You know how many people going to step up and try to be the patriarch? You know, people going to step up and think, oh, they've been waiting all along for you to die. And y'all, you're going to have one of these 7 things that you can use. Like, wait a minute. We don't want to hear from you. We don't want to hear from them. Let's just hear from the deceased person. What did he say? Well, we don't even know what his last will and testament is. I bet you don't. Because you don't want to know where it is. But right here, I got his letter of instruction. And he told me exactly where it is. And it's locked up with this combination that's holding it. Carolyn, that makes a big difference.
Most definitely. It will stop them immediately in their tracks and say, okay, now what are we going to do? Let's get this in order. But you know your family, so we're just asking you, patriarchs, put these things in place and make it easier for your family.
So you got to put everything together. So we're saying if you have a discharge paper, if you are a veteran, don't make us have to call the National Cemetery and get eligibility. You know they're going to ask for your dish. Oh, I go to the VA all the time. I got this number. I got a card. That does not get you eligible. Not for burial.
No.
It might get you eligible for some medicine, but it don't get you buried.
Right.
We need a discharge paper. DD
214.
Go put that with the last will and testament now.
Yes.
Like, and if you don't have it, go get one tomorrow.
Yes.
And in the letter of instructions, tell me where the DD 214 is. I mean, we need every little detail in there. And Kerry, you mentioned like emailing it. You don't understand if the house burn up, we lose everything.
Right.
Somebody has to be able to pull it off an email. Somebody needs to be able to pull it off what we call a soft copy off a computer. So you got everything in a safe. There's no such thing as a fireproof safe. There's no such thing as a bomb-proof safe. There's no such thing as a flood-proof safe, because they can sell it any way they want to. The only way to find out is to test it. And I don't know about you. I don't want to put all my valuables in something just to test it. So I want to make sure it's in some place that we can read it. Because this is too important for our family. This is too important for my homegoing celebration that I want to go well. And I know you want to go well for your family. So I'm going to have a letter of instructions telling you where everything is. So, you know, it takes a lot of effort. Because where is your last will and testament right now? Where is it? And who knows where it is? Where is your pre-need right now? And who knows where it is? Let's get them all. Let's put them all together. Where exactly is the bank account? I mean, who is the payable on? Who is the beneficiary of it? I need you to put that all together.
Question to the Undertaker. You know how we have a contingent and a
Right.
Should we do this with all our like our insurance policy and all this paperwork we putting together? Who's gonna be in charge and stuff like that? Shouldn't we have a contingent with that too?
Let's talk about that word contingent, which is a second beneficiary, meaning something happened to the first one. If you have a spouse, please have a contingent beneficiary. The possibility y'all passing away together is very high. Because if that's one person is your only beneficiary, like Marlonda is married. So if Keith is the beneficiary on everything, and then something happens to both of them, what happens?
Right.
I mean, it's like, come on, does the baby not need to be taken care of?
Right.
I mean, somebody has to be a contingent. And listen, contingents can't bother the first one.
Right.
They have no rank. They have no say. Only way they're even going to come into play is if the first one has passed away.
Right.
Everything should have a contingent.
Okay.
Everything should have a contingent. Carl, that just makes sense. Thank you for that, Pastor.
Most definitely, because John's exactly right. Most of the time when you're married, your spouse is on everything. Even those bank accounts, you have joint bank accounts. Oh, my spouse is on there, I'm okay. But again, understand if you pass away together, then your bank account is going to have to go through probate. And then you're going to have to find these heirs. And so many people in charge. John keeps telling you there were 5 of us. So don't put your family in that position. We ask you to put a primary and a contingent on everything you own.
That's very good. Marlonda also asked a question. She's behind the camera today, so she's not speaking. She said, what if a person is in prison? Now remember, if I'm incarcerated, I am still able to take care of business. So if I'm the beneficiary of your insurance and I'm incarcerated, I am still the beneficiary. The contingent does not come in until I'm deceased.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to have an incarcerated person on there, or if you need to remove them and then place them back when they're not incarcerated, you can do that.
Right.
Yeah. So remember that. Just because a person is incarcerated, the second beneficiary does not kick in.
Okay.
It only kicks in death.
Yeah.
Being incarcerated does not take me off of a policy.
Okay.
It doesn't remove me from payable on death on your bank account.
No.
It doesn't. I mean, if you put me as executor of estate, I'm just doing it behind bars. If you, keep in mind how limited I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So if you made me the person in charge of the funeral, I'm still the person in charge of the behind bar, and I might not even get to attend the funeral.
Right.
But I'm still the person that's
in charge.
So you have to make a decision if you want that person behind bars to still make decisions for you. So you can change it and change it back. Am I saying you need to take a person off? That is strictly up to you. Everybody's different. Everybody grieves different. Everybody take care of business different. You know what's best for you, and you know what's best for your family. Thank you, Jackie, for another great show. Intuitive grieving, instrumental, and then you can blend both of them together. Boy, I'm so glad they got a name for that, Carol. This made me a better Undertaker today. And it's great that the research she does. I mean, it's just amazing. I said, Jackie, how do you come up with something every week? Every week you come with it, but every week she comes with it. Every week. Intuitive grieving. I would have never thought about that, Carolyn.
No.
And instrumental grieving. Great show. Great show. So we're going to be back here, right? Every Saturday? Okay, from 10 to 11 o'clock a.m. We're going to be live on Facebook. We're going to be right here live in this studio, Heaven 97. Then tonight we're going to be on TV, right? On channel 26.3 at 7 o'clock p.m. We now have a YouTube channel. So Orlando puts all these videos on there for us, and it's John Beckwith, capital J, capital B. John Beckwith, that's our YouTube channel. So you can watch us anytime, anywhere. May God bless you, and may God keep you is our prayer.